Hello again, guys. Thank you for joining me again to learn how to do 3D views and rendering. And again, this is part of the Revit 2020 certification videos. I'm going to start at level 1, so I'm going to click over here on my project browser at level 1. Of course, you can use whatever you're working on at the moment. And in this view, let's say I want to create a 3D view of what I'm looking at right now. All I have to do is go to this little doghouse looking thing, or I call it, it's really a house, but it looks like a doghouse to me. And I just click on that and it will create a 3D view. Now I've already created one, so it won't create a second one for me, not in this, from the house, from the little house thing here. It's actually down here now because I've already created it. So after you create that one primary 3D view, just come down here to your project browser and then double click on 3D, and then you get into your 3D view of things, just like so. Okay, and you really can't create a 3D view any easier than that. It's nothing complicated. It's just all about pushing a single button. All right, other ways that you can create 3D views, and again, I'll go back up to level 1. Okay, and I will click on the camera. Okay, the camera is another means of creating a 3D view. So I'll click on camera, and whatever I want to look at in 3 dimensions, I'll place that camera. Okay, so I'll click to place it, and then I'll stretch these rays in the direction that I want to look. And you can see as further away it gets from the camera, the wider it is. Okay, so let's do it right there. And then it automatically goes to that, and now I can see, well, the top of that desk. Drag that down a little bit, and I can see the whole desk, and then part of this one. Okay, and you can pan around in here, I think. Yeah, you can. So just holding the shift button on the keyboard and the middle button on the mouse, which typically is the wheel on the mouse. So holding those two down, you can actually orbit like so. Okay, you can adjust the size of this as you saw me do already. You can make it wider, taller, either stretch the bottom or stretch the top, or bring the top down. Okay, you can also come over to the properties panel, and we will scroll through here, and we're looking for, what am I, elevation, eye elevation, there it goes, and target elevation as well is another one. Target elevation keeps your eye elevation, steady, but then just kind of pivots the camera up and down. Okay, eye elevation actually makes your eye where you're standing at go up and down, taller or shorter. Okay, so let's say I'm a 6'5" individual. 6 foot, and I always have to watch that. It always kind of bounces out. 6'5" inches. And you see how the perspective changed. I'm a little taller now. Okay. Typically in photography, you usually want to go a little bit lower. You always, especially when you're showing off a house like this, you really want to get at the eye level of the people who are going to live in it, primarily the wife. Okay. So make sure you do that. So let's say she is 4'9". I know that's a little short. Most women are not that short. Some are. Okay, so you now can see that we get a much lower perspective, okay, to see what this actually looks like. Target elevation depends on, let's say I really want to see the ceiling and where the ceiling joins with the walls for some reason. I don't know why, but let's say my target elevation would be then, let's say 9 feet. Okay, click apply. Now you can see I'm looking up, and if there were a ceiling, you would see more of some lines up here. Okay, but there is no ceiling in this view. Okay, so that is how you can change that. You can also change the projection mode. Right now we're in perspective. I can change that to orthographic and kind of take some of the height distortions out of the view. And of course, it actually, when I did that, it took my camera outside the building. We just spin that around. We're no longer in that room, but we'll go ahead and keep it on perspective, or orthographic, and we'll go into level 1 and draw another one. Well, it shows the camera right there. Let's do that. Let's probably change the target elevation back to like 5 feet. Oh yeah, see, eye elevation for some reason is at 14 feet. I don't want that. Let's change that to 5 feet also. Oh, I hate that. Be careful when you click in there to change your text inside these boxes. If you just barely tap on your mouse, your cursor will jump out of that little text box, and you have to go in there and click in it again. Okay. View 1. There we go. It's still showing the outside of the building. I don't know why it does that. Let's just go ahead and draw a whole other one. Camera. Let's put it right here, and let's look this way at this desk. We see the desk. Far off clip. Okay, that's good. Perspective. Orthographic. Okay, I don't know what happens with that, but it seems to be disappearing or going outside the building when I do that. But perspective is probably what you're going to want to use anyway. Just gives a more three-dimensional, realistic view, unless you're looking at an awkward angle, and then it starts to really distort some. Okay, and this is also how I do some of the exterior views, some of the renderings for the exterior. So I'm going to go back to level 1, and I'm going to click on the camera again. And let's say I want an outside view from here. Okay. And there you see I'm standing outside. Now, another part of this objective is also rendering. Okay, rendering is basically what we do to get a sort of photorealistic view out of our photograph. And there's a lot of other images and everything that's in the computer that you'll learn about later that contribute to producing this view. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to render this view. If you go down to the bottom status bar, you'll see a tea kettle. It says show rendering dialog. Click on that. And right now I'm in draft. That's going to be the lowest resolution view. It's probably best if you're just doing a test render to use that. And 2, depending on your computer, is basically how good or how bad this is going to look in the end, in the final run. And you have some lighting here that you can change. Typically I keep it as the screen resolution. The draft, of course, you can change that to one of these other levels if you want to. Lighting, it says exterior sun only. Of course, I'm outside during the daytime. I really don't need any artificial lights from the inside, so I wouldn't really select that. If it was later in the day or maybe at night or something like that, I would probably choose either artificial only or sun and artificial to get some of the sun and the artificial from the inside as well. And you also have interior settings, so if you're inside, you would use some of these settings to affect your rendering. Background just says few clouds. You can go with this, change it however you want to. It doesn't make a big difference. Of course, you can also put an image in there. You can also make it transparent. Transparent is good. You want to do a transparent, especially if you're going to use Photoshop and maybe place this building on a scene that you have an actual photograph of. And like place it in like a yard or on a piece of land or something like that. Adjust exposure happens after your render has complete. Now rendering, again, depending on your computer and the speed of your computer, can take a while. I'm going to do this render, and I'm actually going to pause the video until it comes back. And that way you don't have to sit and wait for it to render. When you try it on your own, the higher resolution you go, the longer it's going to take. I have done some resolutions that took hours. Okay, so really don't play around with those at all. But I'm going to click on render, and then I'm going to go in here and pause. Okay, here I'm back. It took about a minute. and you can see what the render produces. This is a draft rendering, just a very low resolution rendering. You see as it gives some sort of a realistic look to the components of the building. And that's how you use the rendering on Revit. Now, a lot of people are starting to go to other software. They're using a software called 3ds Max to actually create their renderings in. It just does a better job than Revit does itself. And I'm not sure, but I don't think Revit is putting a whole lot of emphasis in their rendering capabilities any more than what's already there. If you really want an awesome, crazy looking photo of a digital building, then you would use 3ds Max. But that covers this entire objective. Just leave me any questions if you have any.